What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We have a brand new car in the shop from my buddy Erik from Florida High Performance. He likes to send me all of his cool junk. And as you can see, it's another Chevy. Yay! Chris is having fun today. What are those, Barca loungers? Oh my God.
Luxury seating.
That is luxury seating at its finest. What the heck is that? What do we got here? We got a 57 Chevy. Man, oh man. I think she's seen better days. A little dirty. But it's got something spicy under the hood and a giant hole in the floor. So that's one reason why the car's here. But let's check out what we got under the hood. What is this?
It's a LS3 with a Edelbrock supercharger.
So this is good for like what, 600 horse?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
Good 550, 600 probably to the wheels.
We got some long tube headers over there, and we got sort of a long tube header over here. So what we got to do is we got to build a header for this side to clear the steering box. And we're probably going to do something about that brake line because that's kind of in our way. That's a pretty tight little jog we got there. So I think what we're going to tackle first though is the transmission tunnel. And Chris is going ahead and he's getting the center out, getting everything out, the interior and stuff like that. It looks like someone had something in here already that was riveted or screwed down with like self-tappers. That's not going to work. So what we're going to do is we'll probably get rid of this wiring, get it out of the way, and then we're going to template this all out. So this is a substantially bigger transmission than was originally in the car. Someone went a little ambitious with the cut back here. Went pretty far back. So we're going to be able to probably sheet metal this over flat to here. And then from here we'll start templating up. And what I'm thinking is we'll probably make a flat plate across the top. And then we'll do like one brake maybe here and one brake here. Try to keep this as tightly tucked as possible to the transmission so we're not making this tunnel like massive. But the first thing we're going to have to do, unfortunately, is remove this sound deadening tar, because otherwise we have nothing to weld to. And we also got to clean this all up too. So we'll probably get in here with the grinder and clean all the metal. And then we'll be able to start templating with some cardboard or whatever we can get our hands on. But after we get this all situated, then we're going to tackle the exhaust. We got to build a new header, obviously, for that side. And then we're going to do a X-pipe to some dumps back here with some nice mufflers. But before we get all that done, we got to fix this hole. So as you can see from the time lapse, we had tons of welding to do on this tunnel. We got it all scotch braided up so it's all nice and clean. I'm gonna do a couple more stitches of welding on the back here with this last Cleco. Then we're gonna give this thing a nice fresh DA coat. And then we're gonna bust out the chemicals. Now when you're doing a tunnel, obviously you gotta weld it all up, but also you have to do some seam sealer. Now, I don't know, it's like the caulking of the house world, you know. use seam sealer to seal the car up, to, make sure no water's gonna get in there, any sort of like outside smells, stuff like that, any critters. I'm sure we welded it completely, but the seam sealer is just gonna add another layer of protection. So what we're gonna be using is this 3M 5200. We also have some self-etching primer. This is good because it's gonna actually etch itself into the steel, so you don't have any issues of it flaking. And then we're gonna go ahead and give a nice coat of ultra trim black. The primer probably be sufficient, but we're just gonna hit it with a little bit of black. And then we're gonna go ahead and get the car in the air. We'll seam seal on the other side as well where we welded. We ended up getting the whole underside, well, as much as we could. Obviously, we can't get on top of the transmission, and we're not going to pull the motor or the tranny out. I mean, the key point is to get it sealed up. So if you get the top, you can get it sealed up. Doing the bottom is just an additional layer of insurance to make sure that no water gets in the car, and also anything else that you don't want to get in there. So we're going to let that dry, give it a fresh coat of paint. We'll tape off the transmission and the drive shaft, get as much paint as we can up there so we don't get any rust. Then we're gonna throw some paint on it, and then we're gonna start working on this header and talk about what we're gonna do with that. Center console is done. Pretty pumped on how it came out. Ended up going with that matte black finish. We went ahead and did the seam sealer all the way around top and bottom. So next order of business on this 57 Chevy is we have to fix this header. We thought about basically working with the header that we have, cutting the primaries up and rerouting. But after further inspection, it didn't really want to work out. So best bet is going to be to build a new one. Now, we're not going to go crazy and make a huge twisty header. We're just going to do something similar to what was already there. And what was already there was your typical 4-to-1 with a formed merge. This is what's called a formed merge. And this is what it looks like before it's welded up. So it's just a formed piece of 3-inch that has a die that they use. Basically push it in there, come down the sides, create these little ends. When your 4 primaries come together, they're gonna look like this to go inside of here. So before you weld this guy on, you weld your spike that comes in the kit. This comes from Stainless Headers. I got this head flange from them. So you're gonna go ahead and weld the inside of the 4 primaries first. Then you put your form merge over the 4 primaries, and then you weld all the way around it. And then you're gonna put your 3-bolt doodad, your actual flange, is going to correspond with what it is originally. Now, to build a new header, you could build it in the car, or you can do what we have here. This is a fixture. This is a very, very simple fixture that locates the collector. This is going to be a very straightforward header as far as just point A to point B, which is what it originally was. So we don't have to make like a bunch of locators because this big, twisty, crazy looking header. That being said, what we're going to do is we're going to measure from our flange surface to where the formed collector is, and that's going to tell us exactly how much of this is going to stay like that. Then what we'll probably do is tack it in place and then get this exactly where we want it so we can bolt it here. So you have your point A, bolt your flange to your locator on this end, which is going to be your flange locator. That'll be your point B, and then you go ahead and put this off to your side right here, and then you connect the dots. Now, with a formed collector, you don't really have to worry too much about firing order. Normally you want to rifle your firing order, so you want to go in like a circle. We don't really have that luxury because of space constraints, so it's more going to be like a brute force setup. But with a supercharged application like what we have in the 57, you don't really have to worry too much about that. So we're going to go ahead and confirm some notes on this. And this steering box obviously is the main culprit as to why this primary is cut off. We have to figure out how to get these two to snake around and get into there. And the more I look at this, the more I think to myself that maybe this one can go over top of the steering box and go through this little pocket right here. But that would mean moving those 2 primaries in the back to the vertical position like I was saying. If I spin them like this, they go to the back 2, then this one can come over the top and go to the bottom right-hand corner, and this one can stay pretty much exactly where it is, which is the bottom left-hand corner. that's what we're gonna do. It's not ideal because once this primary goes over the steering box, it's gonna be pretty difficult to get to these bolts. But I don't really see any other way of being able to snake that through. So we're gonna pull the header out now. We'll mark these and get them on the fixture. Alright, so our header is finally taking shape, and as you can see, we took these last two primaries that are originally on the side here and moved them to the top. So the firewall's right here, so now this gave us the ability to put our rear two primaries on the bottom. So now we can come up around the steering box, down, and into this guy right here. Since we don't know where the steering box is in space, I went ahead and did these three because I know these three are where they need to be, because the steering box is like right here. So hopefully this one clears. I'm going to confirm that and then confirm this one is good. And then I'll probably end up doing the top section of the primary in the car, and then I could take it out and then do the rest of it on the bench. Once that's done, I'll show you guys how we're going to weld this thing up and finish it. Alright, so we are definitely clearing. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt it down now so I know it's completely mated against the head. So we're going to come up a 45, it looks like, to a 90. And then from that 90, I'm going to have a clear shot hugging this primary as tight as I can all the way down to the collector. And we're pretty much all set with this header. So we just went ahead and lined up our motor mount with our chassis mount, and as you can see, we're right in that pocket. So we've confirmed this thing fits. We did have to undo the motor mount in order to get this thing up high enough for Chris to pass it through from the bottom, but it goes in. So we're gonna go ahead and break this apart now, take it out of the car, go back over the bench, get it back on our fixture, and start welding it up. Alright, so under much deliberation, we decided we're going to do the passenger side header as well. And what we've noticed is the starter is actually hitting the primary. So the header needs to get shifted over in order for it not to cook that primary. There's a heat shield in there, if you can kind of see it. So we want at least a finger gap between the header and the starter so that we're not cooking that thing. And you can see from the frame rail there, we have plenty of room away from all this business. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a fixture like we did the other side, locating our header flange and our 3-bolt flange at the bottom there. And then we're just going to take these lower primaries, these lower two, and instead of doing a straight shot like they did, we're going to do a little 15-degree bend out of both ends and shift these two over. These two top ones look like they're perfectly fine, so we'll probably mimic what they have here. And then we're going to take a little bit of bend out of here. We're going to make little minor adjustments to make this a little bit more efficient, but also at the end of the day, we're going to take this Chinese header and be able to throw that in the trash with the other side, and we'll have two matching 321 stainless steel headers that'll look a lot better, and it'll kind of finish the car off a lot nicer too. So we're going to pull this thing out now and start fixturing it out, and then we'll start making our other side. Alright, so I just want to show you guys real quick an inside flange weld that you're looking for. I'm using a FUPA number 12 cup, and this is made by Erik. I got the tungstens poked out about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. And when I do flange welds, I like to set the welder up so that I'm flat-footed, so I don't have to modulate the pedal at all. So 70 amps, I have my post flow at 6.5 seconds. So basically what you want to do is you want to focus your heat on the flange first. So start your weld on the flange on the thick side of the metal. Don't try to start your weld on the pipe. So I went ahead and did one side. I'm going to spin the header around, do the other side, connect the dots, and also do this ice cold. Don't do this flange weld, pull it out of the fixture, and then go to this side. If this thing's heat soaked, it's going to weld like crap. So let it cool down to room temperature first before you go ahead and weld the inside flanges. So we go and finish this up now, and it should be ready to get in the car. Oh, and we finished the back side of this. So this thing's almost done. We're really close. All right, so we got our passenger side header pretty much all done. As you can see, we changed the design a little bit. We got this primary going over top of this second primary, and then this one, they kind of like, it like bumps up in the middle. I don't like straight shots like this. I think it's ugly and it's lazy. I like it when all the primaries kind of flow together, and so you can kind of see like a common theme. If you want good looking headers, guys, you want to nest your primaries together as tight as you can. Have them follow each other so they kind of bundle up. You just want all your lines to kind of flow together to make a nice flowy header. Now, if we wanted to do like a more JDM style header, we could have, you know, layered the primaries on top of each other, but this is more of like an American style V8. So we're gonna go ahead and take this out. We're gonna bolt it in the car, make sure that we got our clearance here where we want it to be on the starter. Make sure it's not crowding it anymore. I think it's gonna be okay. I do have to final bolt up our driver's side. I'm not gonna really do that until this one's done. I can bolt both headers in, and then we can move on to the exhaust. But we have to confirm this thing fits first, and then we can go ahead and break it all apart, weld all these primaries up, final weld our collector, do our plug like we did on the other one, and these headers are pretty much done, and we're ready to go on to the rest of the exhaust system. Yeah, it fits in there perfect. So we got plenty of room there, and it slides in and out nice and proper. Just gonna go ahead and break this thing down, weld it up, and get these headers final welded so we can move on to our exhaust. We're gonna show you guys how we're gonna do an X pipe and some dumps before the 4-link rear in this Bel Air. Alright guys, our headers are all set. We got the passenger side and driver side all done. We'll probably do some future episodes where we'll dive a little deeper into how to build your own headers, whether a turbo application or an NA application. Just comment below and let me know, guys, what you guys want to see. Do you want to see some more American stuff, Japanese stuff, European? What kind of cars are you driving? Let me know what you guys actually have so I know exactly what to make for the next future episodes and kind of just like pinpoint what will benefit you guys the most. So these headers are all set. We'll go ahead and bolt these things in the car and move on to our exhaust system. All right, our headers are done and in. So now we're gonna get this thing in the air, start getting our 3-inch exhaust laid out to our X pipe. So first things first, obviously you want your headers in there. You're gonna want your point A, so you know exactly where your starting points are from. And then you're gonna want your point B, which is where you're gonna stop. In our case, we're gonna stop right before this cross member guy right here. So we're gonna do 2 turn downs, boom, boom. Muffler's gonna be right under here. Turn downs are gonna allow the exhaust pulses to actually bounce off the bottom of the car and the ground. And it creates like a really cool rumble effect. That's what makes it a lot louder. So that's kind of what the layout that the customer wants. And we're gonna put our X as close to the engine as possible. So our X is gonna be probably right behind the transmission. If you put your X back here or put your X all the way back here, you're not gonna equalize the pulses or the banks in the left and right as well. So the closer you can X or H pipe your exhaust system to the source, the smoother it's gonna sound and the more it's gonna sound like a smooth rev up. So what we're gonna probably end up doing is we'll do a 45 or a 15 degree out here. We'll stay right underneath this guy right here and this guy right here. And then from here, we're gonna go right into our X pipe, come out, and then come straight back and hang our mufflers around here somewhere. And then we'll put probably a hanger here and a hanger here right on the turn down. Start unboxing some material and get this exhaust started. All right guys, so we got our halfway point as far as the exhaust system goes. What I like to do is make it to the transmission cross member first, and I'll do a nice squared off cut with the cross member. That'll be our like halfway point. From here, we're gonna start jogging into our X pipe. To get our angles and everything where we need to be, we can honestly measure the width, center line to center line, mark it on the bench, and then make the entire exhaust system on the bench. Because from here back, it's gonna be basically like a full, just self-standing system. So what we're gonna do to make our X pipe is we're gonna use these two 45s. We're gonna scallop right here. So you'll cut it on the bandsaw. You can use a cutoff wheel if you want. And then go ahead and face it with some sandpaper. We use the belt sander, and then we'll twist them together, weld it up, and our X pipe is done. We're gonna go ahead and measure our width now, get it marked up on the bench, get our X pipe made up, and then we can make the front half of this section and then start working our way into the mufflers. I went ahead and used U-bends instead of the 45s for my X pipe because the 45 was not going to get the spread I needed as far as this angle. So as you can see, this is 25.5 center to center. Out of the way. So this is our exhaust in the car. So this is where it's coming out from either end of the transmission. This center line represents our drive shaft. So for me to be able to catch this 25.5 inches on this dual 45 X pipe, just wasn't gonna happen. See what I'm saying? So this pipe right here, if you imagine it, would have to be like this, flat. So this is what I call just a dual merge. So you'd merge the two banks together, you'd slice this a little bit, kind of pinch them together, and this actually makes the car scream. This is gonna make a really high pitch, crazy sound. So if you like that, that's great. But I feel like for our Bel Air, we don't want that. We just want the two banks to barely kiss each other to be able to equalize the pulses to get a nice sound of the exhaust system. So I went with the two U-bends and went ahead and laid them out on the bench, marked out my entire U-bend. As you can see, I scalloped it first, merged them together. So now I have a nice merge going here. Doesn't impede the flow. You don't want to go more than probably a ½ inch on either side of the outside of your bend, because you don't want too much back pressure. You have that, you start damaging the engine, robbing power, and so on and so forth. From there, we went ahead and centered up our 45. So boom, boom. And then you could see exactly where your intersecting points are. Where you see your intersecting point is where you need to make your cut. So when you mark it out like this, and you put your full U-bend down, you see exactly where your intersection is. So that's where you need to go in order to get this guy to jive to this guy. And then from here, we're probably gonna make the similar cut like this, and probably just flip these guys, boom, boom. And hopefully we'll have enough real estate for our mufflers. These are a little bit wider than that might allow, so I have to put like a little straight in there. But just for giggle's sakes, we'll put it like that. So that guy will be right there. This one will go into this one, and then another one right there, and then we'll have our turn down, boom, hanger, hanger. But before we do this side of the exhaust, we're gonna finish this one up first. So let's go ahead and start cutting and stop talking. got our X pipe started, and what I want to do is I want to confirm that I got my spacing correct with these 2 points here. All right, so we got everything welded and polished up, and it's looking pretty good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and throw the X-pipe in first, and then we'll mock up our mufflers, get them where we need them, and then we're gonna cut our little turn downs and start fitting them in the car. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright guys, so we're ready to put our mufflers up. We got our turn downs on there, went ahead and polished these bad boys. Now I teased a little bit about using some fancy hangers. Originally you could use just some stainless steel or something like that. But with a car this cherry, you gotta use something a little bit nicer. So we're gonna be using these guys. So these are made by a company called Deeds Engineering. I've used these in the past. They make these really cool billet hangers, and they just really clean up any exhaust system that you want. So this is going to look really nice on the on our dual exhaust. We're going to go ahead and clamp it on the end of the turn down right here, so it'll be right on the inside of this weld. The exhaust is pretty much done, and I'm really pumped how the Deeds hangers came out. These things are a lifesaver. We went ahead and welded a nice angle iron piece up there, welded all around the back, wrapped it around so it's nice and strong. Got our billet hanger bolted in place, polished our tip there, got these nice Stainless Brothers mufflers all welded in. X-pipe's looking really nice. Everything looks really nice and symmetrical. This is what you're looking for when you're doing a setup like this. So what we're gonna do now is drop it down, finish welding the top half of the muffler point and these connections here. And we're gonna try to be as careful as we can so we don't get a lot of flex. And then we're gonna add 1, 2 O2 bongs and throw it back up in there, and this exhaust is pretty much done. Not sure what it sounded like before, but I guess once this thing's all wired up and finished, we'll find a sound clip for you guys. But for right now, I wanted this video to be more of like a how-to to build your own exhaust system and set up, you know, a nice stainless exhaust for yourself if you're doing like a hot rod or a Japanese car, whatever it might be. So I apologize if we don't get a sound clip this episode, but in the near future we'll probably get some clips of this thing on the dyno. So we're gonna drop this thing down now, finish welding it, throw it back up, and see what it looks like. Alright guys, the exhaust is completely done and it's looking pretty good. So we got nice symmetry, got everything bolted in, got our 3-bolt flanges, got our O2 sensors in, one left and right. Our X-pipe is all welded up. Everything's looking really symmetrical and real tidy. We also have our turn downs with our nice billet Deeds hangers and our billet upper mount right there to hold everything in place. So I'm pretty happy with how this came out. This thing is probably gonna sound really nice once they get it all dialed in. Erik down at Florida High Performance has to do a little bit more odds and ends on this thing to get it running. He needs the brakes to get done. He probably has another list of stuff. O2 sensors are missing. So probably try to get a soundbite for you guys in the near future. But for now, this episode was all about how to make your own exhaust system. Make sure you get good quality stainless steel. I always use Vibrant Performance for a lot of stuff that I do. We use Stainless Brothers mufflers on this car. These mufflers are really nice. They're a decent size. They'll be able to get the car's decibels down to where it needs to be, especially since we're missing the second half of the exhaust system. So these big old mufflers, you can hear them. I mean, they're packed with a ton of fiberglass. It's going to do a really nice job getting this thing as a really nice driver. Another thing to take into consideration when you're picking a muffler size is whether you're running an automatic or a stick shift car. Automatic cars tend to drone more if you're running like straight pipes and open exhaust. You're just getting that RPM range down the highway and the thing's just like wall. So you don't really want that. Our long tube headers are all in there, guys. And everything's looking really good. It's really nice and tight. He's probably gonna have to put a little heat wrap on this fuel lines, maybe tuck this one up a little bit, but it's nothing too bad. If you have any questions, guys, on welder setup, what kind of TIG welder I use, or any sort of process in the whole timeline of building this entire exhaust system, throw it in the comment section below. But hope you like this how-to. We're gonna be hitting you on another episode next Thursday, so thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.